YouTube. It's your favorite neighborhood accelerationist, the canard economy. So today's video is going to be on this spiritual concept and spiritual practice called shadow work. Shadow work. That's SHADOW, shadow, and work, WORK. And we're going to be working on our shadow self. So that's pretty much taking off our mask, if you will, and showing our true selves, like when we're alone and all that, and all the suppressed feelings that we want to hide. So I wrote it all down. I'm pretty much going to read. So y'all ready? So shadow work is the psychological and spiritual practice of exploring the hidden, repressed, or unacknowledged parts of your personality, known as the shadow self, to achieve greater self-awareness, emotional balance, and personal wholeness. I immediately thought of that Chinese or Asian dude. He's like, emotional damage. So we have emotional balance. So, known as the shadow self, to achieve greater self-awareness, emotional balance, and personal wholeness. The origin of the concept shadow work and shadow self was coined by the brilliant psychiatrist Carl Jung. That's CARLJUNG. Carl Jung. And he's a psychiatrist. That's PSYCHIATRIST. That's a psychiatrist. So, and that's the term shadow work and shadow self. You can Google it. You can Google that. The shadow represents traits and impulses pushed into the unconscious mind because they feel unacceptable. Not just bad traits. It includes painful, difficult emotions like anger, rage, envy, shame, and selfishness. Even positive traits such as assertiveness, joy, and creativity / thinking outside the box, if you were taught those were wrong by individuals trying to oppress you. When we were kids, we picked up and learned which behaviors win affection / social acceptance, and which bring us rejection, and which ones bring us rejection / hate. Burying the unaccepted pieces to stay safe or loved. So why do it? Well, why you should do this shadow work and work on your shadow self? It stops self-sabotage by forcing you to think about bad habits for long periods of time and ponder why you do what you do and finding solutions to said problems, or at least be aware of the habits and not live on automatic. Reduces reactivity. Recognizing what triggers you and others helps heal internal wounds rather than projecting frustration outward. For example, recognizing, naming, and acting out every emotional and acting out every emotion / emotional reaction in your body and what triggers them in you and people in social spaces. Lastly, it fosters wholeness. Accepting your full complexity reduces inner friction, shame, and self-criticism. So, plan a full day, week, month, or even a year of sitting in a quiet room in silence with no distractions, letting your mind wander. And at the very least, you should sit in a quiet room like this when it's, I guess when it's, you can do it when it's dark. You should sit in that one spot like this for 8 hours in full. Just sitting there, just letting your mind wander. So I really don't like how I read this, but I'm gonna keep it going. So like I said, you should be sitting in a room for 8 hours, preferably when it's nighttime, so it can be completely dark, so you don't have to look at any distractions in your room. It would just be complete. It would be completely pitch black, and it would really let you, instead of closing your eyes, your eyes will be open, but everything will be pitch black, and you can pretty much go over that shadow self with yourself, because you won't be able to see anything. You'll just have your mind. So it'll be almost like you're working it all out. So I may read this one more time through. So plan a full day, week, month, and or year sitting in a quiet room in silence with no distractions, letting your mind wander. Don't try to think and don't judge the random thoughts that pop up. Just let it flow. Because those are not your thoughts, more so an antenna to the universe, spirits, ancestors in your brain. Like just the random thoughts in your brain. Practice mindfulness and journaling, which is what I'm going to go to in the next one. So I'm going to read this one more time so y'all can hear what I'm saying 100%. Shadow work, which is SHADOW, work, WORK. Shadow work is the psychological and spiritual practice of exploring the hidden, repressed, or unacknowledged parts of your personality known as the shadow self to achieve greater self-awareness, emotional balance, and personal wholeness. The origin of the concept shadow work and shadow self was coined by the psychiatrist Carl Jung. The shadow represents traits and impulses pushed into the unconscious mind because they feel unacceptable. Not just bad traits, it includes painful, difficult emotions like anger, rage, envy, shame, and selfishness. Even positive traits such as assertiveness, joy, and creativity / thinking outside the box, if you were taught those were wrong by individuals trying to oppress you, mainly your parents and people in your hometown. When we were kids, we picked up and learned which behaviors win affection / social acceptance and which bring us rejection / hate in society. Burying the unaccepted pieces to stay safe or loved. So, why you should do these things, why you should do shadow work and work on your shadow self, it stops self-sabotage by forcing you to think about the bad habits for long periods of time and ponder why you do what you do. And finding, I'm not going to show it, but that's a FedEx truck just came through with a package. That's why I be looking outside. I don't even think they stopped. I don't even think they put a package down. I think they just stopped the truck and kept it going. So, we're at why should we do the shadow work and work on our shadow selves? It stops self-sabotage by forcing you to think about bad habits for long periods of time and ponder why you do what you do, and finding solutions to said problems, or at least be aware of the habits and not live on automatic, which is what I talked about in my last video, working, like doing stretching and all that, so you can work out your subconscious mind. Because like I said, we move on automatic all day. So we really don't have that awareness to be doing one step, walking and like moving our body like that. Having that full awareness, so we have to be on automatic with our subconscious. So it stops self-sabotage by forcing you to think about bad habits for long periods of time and ponder why you do what you do, and finding solutions to said problems, or at least be aware of the habits and not live on automatic. It reduces reactivity, recognizing what triggers you and others, helps you helps heal internal wounds rather than projecting frustration outwards. So pretty much getting mad at people doing what they do. You pretty much finally get to understand why people act the way they act, and act all negative and even their positives. So that's recognizing what triggers you and others, helps heal internal wounds rather than projecting frustration outwards. For example, recognizing, naming, and acting out every emotion in the body and your emotional reactions to said emotions, which is what the next video will be on. I'm gonna say every single human emotion that we have in our body. So I warn y'all, it may trigger y'all just hearing those words, like it did me. I've read those things and I kind of felt it. I felt those emotions just by speaking on it, just by saying the word, because all this stuff is witchcraft and magic. Just using our language. See, like for example, I'm telling y'all all this stuff. I just pretty much gave y'all knowledge of shadow work and all that. That's magic, witchcraft, if you will. So, for example, recognizing, naming, and acting out every emotion, an emotional reaction in your body, and what triggers them in you and the people in said social spaces. Lastly, it fosters wholeness, accepting your full complexity, reduces inner friction, shame, and self-criticism. So every time I do that, there is somebody like driving past, just to let y'all know. I'm not showing them because I don't want y'all to see my street. Y'all hear the car? That was another car, by the way. So, lastly, it fosters wholeness, accepting your full complexity, and reduces inner friction, shame, and self-criticism. So once again, how to do this in 100% full, and how to not have any distractions. You have to plan a full day. Yes, a full day, a full week, a full month, and a full year. At the very least, you should be sitting in a room like this. I have the windows open because I like to get natural sunlight and everything, but it should be completely black. It should be, for example, I recommend doing this in the wintertime since we have that, I forgot what it's called, the daylight savings time that they're taking away. Even though it still happens, even though they're taking it away. You know what I'm saying? And the fact that they feel like they have that power where they can just do that is pretty wild. They can just say, "Hey, no more daylight savings time," and it's like, okay. It's just like, oh, okay. So doing this work, this is really, I'm making it seem like it's light. I'm taking it lightly or whatever, but this is really serious. This, like, a lot of people don't do this work. A lot of people don't do this work, and they're stuck in like the lower. They're stuck in a form of themselves that's not them. Like they're still like low level humans, if you will. Like they still get angry. They can't regulate their emotions. People see red. Like doing all this work, you get to sit with yourself and you at least get to see what triggers you and all that. So, because like I said, we live in a society now where we can't attack people and go to jail. Because growing up, I didn't know that. Like assaulting people, I didn't know that you can go to jail for assaulting people. Well, no, I knew that, but not in a way as in both people go to jail. Like you fight, like if you fight people, both people will go to jail and all that stuff. So that's why it's important to people now. So since people have that awareness that there's laws, and if you hit somebody first, or if you hit them in a certain way hard enough, they have to go to the hospital. They can sue you, and next thing you know, you're paying for their hospital bills. And a lot of people are trolls and jokesters, and Carl Jung speaks on that. They have these things called Joker archetypes, And they have things called archetypes in general, and we have to learn what our archetypes are. Like a lot of people are very, very jokingly, and that's me. I'm a jokester, but I became mature, and I don't play around anymore because I know how everybody feels now. You know what I'm saying? It's hard to be like a Kai Cenat or I Show Speed. You know what I mean? I mean, it's not hard, but it's like I don't want to. You know what I'm saying? It's just because I feel like I'm faking it, and it feels like I'm a clown. Like when I'm doing stuff like that, they call it jester maxing. They call it being a jester. They call it being a joker, a clown, a fool, stuff like that. So, like I was saying, so people would troll you. The word troll, y'all can search that up, but it's pretty much getting a rise out of you and pretty much tricking you using witchcraft. So by making you feel negative emotions, like they'll do something called fish bait you into certain situations, and then they'll act like they didn't do it, but in their mind, in their shadow self, they know what they're doing. You know what I'm saying? Because they know the emotions that trigger, anger, rage, and all that type of stuff. And now, for what purpose? They could just be doing it because it's funny. They could be doing it to sue you. They could be doing it to test your will as a man. Because we're not supposed to let things get to us, and we're not supposed to be hurting people and killing people. So the universe and and beyond, things that created us, we're being tested. We're being tested overall to see how good of a human we are, so we could ascend to the next level. Go to heaven and all that good stuff. Okay. So like I said, you do your shadow work. You sit in a room like this for 8 hours. A lot of people can't sit in. Remember the apple cross, the crisscross applesauce position, or the Indian style position that I showed. Right now, I'm not even sitting like that. I'm just sitting like this on my bed. But the one that I showed y'all, I can't post up right now because whatever. What was I saying? Oh, you should sit in that position for 8 hours if you can. Your legs may hurt, but it's really worth it doing that meditation for 8 hours. You get to really sit with yourself, and like I said, you'll get things called epiphanies, intuition, aha moments, like eureka moments. Like in cartoons, you see the little light bulb on their head when they get a bright idea. That's real. It's just it won't be a real light bulb. You know what I mean? I have a light bulb somewhere I was gonna show, but y'all get the gist though. What I was trying to say. I can't find it. I had a blue light bulb. Like I said, my room is still kind of junky, so I can't really find anything like on hand. So, like I said, this is called shadow work, and you should be sitting down in a quiet room like this for 8 hours. And if you can, I mean, it still works, but you should really do it like in silence, 100%, like while nobody's home and all that stuff, because a lot of memories and trauma will come to you, and it may be so painful that you might actually scream out loud, because you should actually get all those you should get those you should get all those emotions out, because we're a lot of when not some of us, everybody has trauma, especially living in America. So we're traumatized, and people don't know about this stuff, so they're just treating us like any type of way, and not knowing that when we come home, like we still remember all this stuff. And if it's really, really hateful and harmful, it will stick with you. Like those memories will pop up like randomly. That's why a lot of people that get humiliated in fights, like I know there's some people that got beat up so bad, and they got their pants pulled down and embarrassed. They recorded them on social media, kicked them, stomped them on the ground, and all that type of stuff. So some of these people got beat up so bad that that they either turn into evil people, villains, if you will, like criminals and gangsters, if you will. And even in that moment, some people will go back and get a weapon and come back to that same spot and and take them off this earth and then go to jail and just sitting in jail looking stupid. But that's another reason why you work on your shadow self so you don't let people get to you on that type of level. But some things are so traumatizing, people got jumped, people got robbed, all that type of stuff. So, and it turns you into an evil individual, because a lot of people are innocent, but then they end up turning into like bad people and very, 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 very villainous, dishonorable people. So, we're going back to the shadow work and shadow self. I said plan a full day, week, month, or year of sitting in a quiet room in silence with no distractions, letting your mind wander. Don't try to think and don't judge the random thoughts that pop up in your mind. Just let it flow because those are not your thoughts. More so an antenna, like on a TV or on your car, that little wire looking thing. That's a terrible thing to say. The thing that's on your trunk, that's on the trunk of your car on the right side, it's like a pointy metal rod that sticks up. That's an antenna. And that's how our hair is, like how the car gets the radio and all that good stuff. Sirius XM and all that. So that's more so an antenna. You can type that on Google. Antenna. Antenna to the universe, spirits, ancestors, and your brain. So that shadow work. We're 22 minutes in. Like I said, I read it twice, so I'm not going to read it again. Okay, so we're going to go to the next thing because I said practice mindfulness and something called journaling. So journaling is just writing down in a notebook. I don't have my notebook. Well, I'll use this. This is an old community college binder, but this is still considered journaling. It's still considered journaling. But as long as you have a piece of paper, that's all that matters. You need a piece of paper and you need a pen. So you can write down, like how people have a diary? That's pretty much their version of a journal, of journaling. Just pretty much writing down stuff that went on in your life, significant others in your life, traumatic moments, good moments, your personal thoughts that you can't say to other people, like on camera and all that type of stuff. So that's called journaling. You could search that up. Like I said, I wish I could go in further with these things, but look how it's already 23 minutes and my phone cut off in my previous video. So I believe I can only do about 30 something minutes each video. And then I have to go to my editor app that's already on the phone and I have to mash up both videos, and then somehow, some way the words get delayed. I'd be like this. Then I talk. It's silly. It's very, very annoying. So, like I said, that we're doing shadow work, journaling, and mindfulness. Shadow work, mindfulness, and journaling all go hand in hand with each other. So you should be doing all three at the same time. But the shadow work is pretty much just sitting there in silence for 8 hours a day. So, and you should do it for a full day, which is the 8 hours, if you will. But you don't have to sit in the room for 8 hours with the full day. But you should, for 8 hours, you should sit in one spot in the dark. That should be one thing on its own. And then do shadow work, like just pretty much not speaking and just pretty much going over your mind. and going over past experiences and, trauma. You should sit there for a full day. You can stay in your room. You can just being in the house, but with no distractions though. No distractions at all, including your phone. And that's why I would say even the journaling is kind of a distraction because you have to think of the words and all that type of stuff. Because see how I'm flowing like this? It's kind of hard to write all this stuff down sometimes because we're flowing so much, and then we have to find the right words to say, and then we have to make sure that we can articulate it on paper because sometimes it gets like chicken scratch and all that. Because once again, it's not like we have a teleprompter that's saying, "Oh, words, words, words." All this is in our brain. So if you didn't already write this down, all this stuff gets lost. Especially if you have to go to work all day. I don't know how y'all do it, but you have to remember all the systems. You have to make conversation with people, and then you have to come home and do another job. You know, and then people like me, I gotta fuck around and work like 3, 4 jobs. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know how that's possible. I try to do it, but doing this YouTube thing, like I said, just me writing those 3 things down, me writing these 3 things down, and actually having the creativity to make this video, it took me all day just to do this stuff, and that was just me, and that was with me having the knowledge right in my face, writing all that down. So, and this is like simple, like this is supposed to be like the slight work. So, in the back is the list of all the emotions that I'm gonna say. So, like I said, this is shadow work. You should be doing that for 8 hours, or until we're not until it should be 8 hours plus. You should be sitting there for 8 hours in silence and just letting your mind flow. You should just be like this, doing nothing, literally. You should just be sitting on your bed, cross-legged like this. You should just be sitting like this, and you're gonna be bored. You're gonna feel jittery. And you should just let all that stuff out. You shouldn't say, "Oh, I'm bored." You shouldn't say that out loud though, or in your mind. Just have that feeling of being bored, because I think we're supposed to feel that feeling sometimes, of feeling bored and doing nothing. I didn't think we were supposed to be doing that, but it's kind of good to be bored sometimes. You hear the ice cream truck? So I'm trying to think if I want to go to another video because I want to do the mindfulness, but it's kind of quick. But I don't want this thing to cut off. And that's also doing mindfulness, having that awareness. So we just did shadow work, and you could go in deeper. It's very, very deep. You can search up the homie Carl Jung, or Carl Jung. That's CarlJung. He's a Swiss psychiatrist, one of the greatest psychiatrists in history. So yeah, and he has books and all that. I didn't read the books and all that, but I found all this work just being online, and I did the work myself, so I could really vouch for it. I didn't read these people books as much as I want to, but I don't have the money for the books. And I was looking at other stuff because it's not just Carl Jung. We have on the other side of philosophy, we have the homie Marcus Aurelius, we have Socrates, we have ideologies like Nietzsche, Friedrich Nietzsche, the homie Philip Mainlander, I believe that's his name. All these excellent minds, and Sigmund Freud, all these people. And like I said, I don't have all this stuff written down, but I just happen to like do the screenshots and all that. Cause I plan on reading their books and all that. Cause I got the gist of what their ideologies are and all that stuff. So reading the books is kind of just their deeper opinion of it. But a lot of people broke the stuff down and all that. So that's called shadow work. And once again, you're going to be sitting like this, or just sitting in your room in general for 8 hours. I know that sounds crazy, but that's called discipline. And coming out of that, you'll be you'll be like me, if you will. And some people are, oh, why would I want to be like him? But it's just enlightened and honest, because who do you see that's making YouTube videos like this? Like, you see people getting on camera and all that, but they don't even reply to people in comment sections. They already have a script going on and all that. Like, I'm seeing all my YouTubers that I used to look at, they ran to another platform. And I don't believe in doing that. I don't believe in following people like that. To an extent, you know what I mean? Maybe a long time ago, but now I'm like, I can't do that. And then the content isn't better. Like, it's just trash. Also, another reason why I don't go to their platforms, like when following them, is kind of disrespecting the fans that's already on that platform. Because then I would have to make a new account. I would have to do all that bullshit. So that's lame. Okay, so we're going to shadow work. We're going to sit here for 8 hours. And you should be doing that for 8 hours one time through. And then you should sit with yourself for a full day. And if you want to really get to the deep roots, and like I said, I did all this stuff myself. I really vouch for this. I did the 8 hours. I sat there for 8 hours, literally. I promise you. I swear to God, I sat here for 8 hours in the dark. And I let everything flow. All my trauma, all the past heartbreaks, me figuring out what emotions I have. Because once again, I'm going to show y'all this emotions list of every single emotion that we have in our body. There's no way of us knowing that we have these emotions until we speak on them. You know what I'm saying? So once we recognize these emotions, we can search all of them up. We can Google every single emotion. And I can't do that on here because, as you can see, it's already 32 minutes. If I did that, it would be a 2-hour-long video and all that stuff. And I already made my hour-long videos, and I got 0 views. So I can't afford to be doing that anymore. Like, it's already 32 minutes in. So, once again, this is called Shadow Work by Carl Jung and the Shadow Self. You can search this all up on Google. We all have Google. If you have a phone, you have Google, Safari. Are y'all still using Bing? I don't know what people use anymore. But I'm just going by what I see on that's already. I'm using every single thing that's on my phone. I'm not downloading just whatever features that's on this phone I'm using. And it just cut off the 4 gigabytes. So I believe it's going to go to another video. Now that everything's going to be delayed. So might as well keep it going. So shadow work in the shadow self. You do this for 8 hours a day, or just 8 hours one time through, at the very least. Plan a full day of doing absolutely nothing, because you'll feel that feeling of like, if you didn't plan for this, you'll have that feeling popping up in your mind. Oh, I gotta go to work. Oh, I have to do this today. Oh, I have to do that today. Or I have to hang out with somebody today. You have to schedule a full day, week, month, and year of doing completely shadow work. And doing hard stuff like this, making sacrifices, it puts favor on you in the spirit realm. And you'll be blessed at some of the highest forms. You'll be seen as, you'll be looked at as a hero in the Carl Jung philosophy. They have something called the hero's journey. So if you do this, it would initiate yourself, improve yourself to God, if you will, God, Jesus, the universe, and all the other positives in our lives. That we're very, very disciplined, and we're very serious about this spirituality, and we're really serious about being our higher selves and the best of the best humans on the planet. And doing this stuff, it, like I said, it puts favor on us. and we may even still get to be alive. You know what I mean? Because who gets to choose who gets to die and who gets to live? You know what I'm saying? Because I'm seeing a lot of crazy stuff on the news, man. There's people going out sad, very, 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 very sad. You know, there was just this thing in Mississippi. It's, you know, I'm trying not to tear up, but in Mississippi, they still, you know, they still finding people hanging from trees and all that stuff. You know what I'm saying? So that's pretty, it's pretty rough. Women at that. So it's like it's not just, you know, fighting age men. It's not on some war stuff. It's like people just they luring people. They're luring black people, specifically foundational black Americans, not the foreigners, but the people like me that they have black fatigue and all that stuff. They're luring people in to brutally murder these people, and then send a message by hanging them, saying, you know, not in our town and all that stuff. And they're saying it's they did it themselves, but we'll never know. So like I said, who gets to decide who gets to live and who gets to live and who gets to die? So that's why I recommend that we do all this type of this cool spirituality work, so we could be at our higher selves and be the best of the best humans, so we don't get an ice cream truck. Like I said, I like to hear stuff like that. It really brings out the innocence, and it's good to bring out that peace. I'm not gonna show it. I'm not gonna show it because y'all gonna see my street. But once again, like doing little innocent stuff like that, it puts favor on you and gives a reason to live. You know what I mean? Because allegedly, I looked at this thing on Twitter, and they even have a movie about this by Justin Timberlake, which sounds crazy, right? Justin Timberlake in a movie, starring it too. So y'all can check out this movie called In Time, I believe. But there's allegedly like our life is literally on a clock. So you know, like at this moment, how we seeing on YouTube how or on my camera I'm seeing 37 minutes and 26 seconds. In a reverse level, there's a countdown subtraction of that. They're pretty much saying how long we have to live. So I've seen that eating stuff like, which is crazy, eating a peanut butter and jelly sandwich adds minutes to our lives. And eating like harmful foods like chicken nuggets and hamburgers, that literally decreases our time of living on Earth, which sounds so crazy, right? And like I said, we can't prove that. So we kind of just have to take it. You can either believe it or not. But I believe that's real stuff though. Because not only did they make a movie, I'm also seeing like other stuff that speaks on that. Because I seen that movie In Time. It's called In Time by Justin Timberlake and it's another woman. I believe that's when they did that curved bullet shot. I don't remember if that's the right movie, but they had like this cool movie scene where he was like he moved the gun and it like curved the bullet and it tapped somebody. So that's why it's important. That's why I like to be vegan and eat healthy because that adds minutes on our lives. But I never thought that a peanut butter and jelly sandwich would be healthy. Like growing up, I didn't think that was a thing. Like it's really good though. I really enjoy that thing, the peanut butter and jelly. They had this thing called Uncrustables. It's like they have this one that's already packaged, and you have to keep it in the freezer, not in the refrigerator, but the freezer, and then you break it out. Okay, so we're gonna go to the next video, which is this. We're gonna practice mindfulness, and I already spoke on journaling. That's just pretty much writing all your traumas down, your emotions down, what you want to say to people that you can't say to their face. And I don't consider that being a coward, not saying everything to people's faces, because if you said everything to people, you know, everybody's not going for that. So you would either die or you would either go to jail or you would keep catching bodies and all that type of stuff. Because that's why I'm glad that I wasn't who I was now in middle school and high school. I'm still the same person, but of not taking nobody's, you know, trash and not being on clown time and jester. You know what I'm saying? Because like I said, I'm 28. If I made it to like if I was on the time I'm on right now, which is called man time, if you will, I probably would have already been. I would have, I would have went to jail. And then we're not allowed to have firearms at until we're 21. So people would have been trying to stab me, shoot me, all this stuff, and I would have been doing it to them. You know what I'm saying? So, because everybody gets got, even King Von got. So, yeah, everybody, which is crazy to me. I still can't believe everybody's still alive from that. Chicago. I don't know. Somebody may be lying about Chicago, man. The fact that I don't even want to call for that type of stuff, but the fact that certain people are still walking this earth and they took King Von out is pretty wild. So that goes to show how nobody really gave a fuck about him, or they wanted him to die. You know what I'm saying? Either that, or all that stuff isn't real. The actors and all that. So the first things first, it was Shadow Work in the Shadow Self by Carl Jung, the psychiatrist. So I'm pretty much giving y'all the soft version of this. If y'all really get into it, it's gonna be deep. And like I said, like just sitting with yourself and remember these things. A lot of stuff be so painful with people that they may yell. Like they may be in the silent room just thinking about a traumatic experience, and you may get mad. Like there may be a time where you fought somebody or you didn't fight somebody, and you still feel like you got punked or whatever, and they may get you all mad, or you got jumped before and you never got to fight those people again, or it was a woman that you really wanted to date, and either you were too nervous to speak to her, or you don't have the resources and proper skills to be with that type of woman. So if Kevin Samuels, there's somebody named Kevin Samuels that y'all can search up, a high value male that passed away, which is weird. I still don't understand that. That was a trippy thing. But he said every time you want to talk to a very attractive woman that you think is beautiful and you want to marry her and all that stuff, but you know that you know deep inside that you can't be the best man that you can for her, so that feeling, it feels like you just died, which is crazy. But that was the perfect example of that. Like when you see like a very attractive female or attractive man, and you can't, as much as you want to go say something, but you can't talk to her or him like you really want to, because you're not where you are in life. So, and that feeling feels like you just died. So, okay. So we're at mindfulness. That's mindfulness. You can search that up on Google, mindfulness. But I'm gonna say it in short. So mindfulness is the basic human ability to be fully present, aware of where we are and what we're doing, and not overly reactive or overwhelmed by what's happening around us. So once again, that's mindfulness is the basic human ability to be fully present, aware of where we are and what we're doing, and not overly reactive or overwhelmed by what's happening around us. So we have these different types of awareness in the mindfulness aspect. It's present awareness, which is present awareness focusing on the here and now instead of replaying the past or worrying about the future. So that's being in the moment like I am right now. And watching me, you should be in a silent room just like I am. I hate to quote somebody, but it's like I'm FaceTiming you in a way. That was from Spiritual Soul, and other people say that too. But that's kind of the best way, because we're on our phones, so it's like we're FaceTiming. So, and like I said, every time I do that, there's somebody driving past. So that's that intuition and all that good stuff. So mindfulness is the basic human ability to be fully present, aware of where we are and what we're doing, and not overly reactive or overwhelmed by what's happening around us. Present awareness, focusing on the here and now instead of replaying the past or worrying about the future. The next one is non-judgmental observation. Non-judgmental observation, noticing thoughts, physical feelings, and emotions without labeling them as good or bad. Yeah, them as good or bad. Acknowledging a wandering mind and gently bringing attention back to your anchor. So that's acknowledging a wandering mind and gently bringing attention back to your anchor. The benefits: it lowers stress, calms the nervous system, and reduces stress hormones like cortisol. Yeah, I think y'all know that term. I think the homie Clavicular spoke on that. That's like your cortisol levels of getting stressed and high blood pressure. But it's good that being that type of that cortisol type of level because it puts you in that primal sense, that fight or flight, and that gets you kind of hyped to make these type of videos, I guess. So I'm gonna say it one more time. Mindfulness is the basic human ability to be fully present, aware of where we are and what we're doing, and not overly reactive or overwhelmed by what's happening around us. Present awareness, focusing on the here and now instead of replaying the past or worrying about the future. Non-judgmental observation, noticing thoughts, physical feelings, and emotions without labeling them as good or bad. Acknowledging a wandering mind and gently bringing attention back to your anchor. And once again, the benefits are: it lowers stress, calms the nervous system, and reduces stress hormones like cortisol by having this mindfulness awareness. Improves focus, improves focus, trains the brain to regain attention when distracted, manages emotions, creates space between a trigger and your reaction, making difficult feelings easier to handle, better sleep, as in it relaxes the body and mind to help you fall and stay asleep by having this mindfulness and these observations. Looking back, I could tell I was tired making this. Like it's kind of bad because I didn't put my punctuations correctly. Which is lame, very, very lame. Manages emotions, creates space between a trigger and your reaction, making difficult feelings easier to handle. Then you have better sleep, relaxes the body and mind to help you fall and stay asleep. The next one is mindful breathing. That's mindful breathing. So take slow breaths, feeling the air move in and out of your nose and chest. So that's taking those slow breaths is what I said in my previous video of the meditation, like when you're inhaling all the way. So and then exhaling all the way. So, and that's called mindfulness. Having that mindfulness and awareness. So that's called mindful breathing. You can search all this stuff up on Google. Simple. Just type in mindful breathing and you'll go from there. So, mindful breathing. Take slow breaths, feeling the air move in and out of your nose and chest. The next one is called a body scan. And once again, that's doing the mindfulness, that's doing the shadow work, that's meditating. And doing that stretching, the full body meditative stretch is what I was talking about, which is called a body scan. You're going over every single aspect of your body, from your hair, scalp, eyes, facial muscles, even the nose, I guess. But that's not really, you can't really exercise that. You can, you can move it like that, but whatever. Your mouth, your jaw, ears, neck, upper body, etc., etc. And the best way to do that is by practicing the stretching and this thing called yoga nidra. That's YOGA NIDRA. So that's yoga nidra. And in my previous video, I spoke on qigong. So that's CHIQ qigong. That's I can't even think of it, but it's qigong. CHI. It may be QUONG, but that doesn't sound correct. But y'all should search. Which is what I just said. Qigong. So that's yoga nidra and qigong, and then your full meditative stretch, which you can check out my previous video. So that's called a body scan. That's mentally check in with each part of your body from your head to your toes, releasing any tension you notice. The next one is which is what I spoke on in an early video, which is mindful walking. So that's taking those spiritual walks without your phone, without headphones, just walking like you're a Neanderthal caveman, just walking through the forest. So that's mindful walking. Pay attention to the feeling of your feet touching the ground. You can wear shoes and all that. Because one funny time is, it was summer like this last year, and I walked on the ground and in my just bare feet, and I accidentally burnt my foot, and it was all like skin coming off. Because I didn't know that my skin would be all burnt up like that just by walking on the ground. But the sun was shining on the is it called asphalt? So it was really hot, but I didn't pay any mind because I've transcended past pain. I don't feel pain and all that stuff. So I was walking on the asphalt, and the next thing you notice, like, because I did that full walk, that 30-minute walk. The next day, my skin is all peeling on the bottom part of my foot. Like, it's good now, but it was very, very ugly. So I definitely recommend wearing shoes when you're walking outside, unless you're in the grass. But even then, you may get a tick. You may step on a rock and all that good stuff. So not good, but all that wild stuff. So that's why it's a sacrifice. So that's mindful walking. Pay attention to the feeling of your feet touching the ground and the sounds around you, like the birds, the cars, all that stuff. And then lastly, practice mindfulness by doing everyday task. Task as in TASKS, task. Like activities, your daily activities. So that's everyday tasks such as focus entirely on routines. You could do that morning routine that I gave y'all. Like I said, that's the best routine that y'all can do. Besides, eating breakfast and, going to the gym and all that stuff. But I'm pretty much doing that in my routine. It's just not eating breakfast because that warps your mind, and it can also make you lethargic and all that stuff. So I recommend skipping breakfast and just going to a good veggie lunch and doing your whole hearty meal dinner at 7:30. No later than 7:30. Because I said at the 7:30 it lets your body digest. And then when you sleep, I don't think your body digests food while you sleep. So it just sits there. That's why I don't recommend eating snacks in bed anymore. I used to. When I first started getting money, I used to go to the little tobacco store. I would get me hot fries, the tropical fruit snacks, which is the best one. Not the original, which is delicious, but the tropical ones has more flavor. So I would get hot fries, fruit snacks, a, a king size Twix, a king size white Kit Kat, M&Ms, grape juice, apple juice, and the vanilla frappuccinos. I would get 3 of those. And can I believe they charge $4 a piece for that? They charge $4 for those small cappuccinos. It's not even bigger than this water bottle. It's about, y'all see where the water is? It's shorter than that. But they're so good. They're very, very good. Also, I would buy tall waters like this. It's not this isn't a tall one, but it's even taller than that. It would be about $4. So I would spend about $30 just on snacks. So, but I'm past all that type of stuff. You know, you're not supposed to be eating snacks and all that stuff because I'm not going to get into it. But a long time ago, there was a conspiracy theory saying that that stuff is made up of stuff that will make you throw up. So I'm not going to speak on that because I can't prove it, but it sounds about right. I'm not going to say what it is because it's gonna mess you up, and I don't want to mess you up like that. But it is the truth, though. I know that for sure. But it's stuff that is very, very harmful for you, and you shouldn't be eating that stuff. And even if it's not harmful, or even if it tastes good, it's very, very poisonous to you. Okay, so I forgot where I was going with this, but the everyday task, focusing on your routine, your any routine that you do. So focus entirely on the routine activities like eating a meal, washing dishes, or doing the morning routine, which I said, working out, having that awareness, sitting in silence, be aware that you're working out, be aware that your arms are flapping up, be aware that you're a human, having a human experience, doing this silly stuff. So, like I said, that was mindfulness, doing everyday task. But the mindfulness things are present awareness, non-judgmental observation awareness, mindful breathing, body scans, mindful walking, and everyday task. That's ways that you can do mindfulness. So I'm gonna repeat it one more time before it hits an hour. And this is the last thing, by the way. That was the last one. So I'm gonna just reread it one more time. So that's mindfulness, mindfulness. And once again, this is my first time reading all year, reading all this stuff. But like I said, I wrote all this stuff down, and I kind of fell off, if you will, just being on my phone. I didn't work out or anything. So me doing that video, that was the first time I did that all year. So mindfulness is the basic human ability to be fully present, aware of where we are and what we're doing, and not overly reactive or overwhelmed by what's happening around us. Present awareness is focusing on the here and now, being in the moment. And if you look on Netflix, you go to a show from the homie Duncan Trussell. He does the show on Netflix called Midnight Gospel, and they speak on having that mindfulness and awareness. Like I said, I wish I could show y'all that type of stuff, but they're so greedy, they'll block the video. So not only will they copyright it, they'll remove it from the internet. So like, for example, I just did all this hours worth of content. If I go downstairs right now and get on Netflix and show that 2 second, well, a minute or two of that mindfulness clip, the video will either be theirs or this video won't even exist. So let me hurry up and do this. So you could check out the show Midnight Gospel by Duncan Trussell. It's like that animation. Like I said, it's great animation, and what they're speaking on is so good. Like you should look at it. You should look at it twice. One for just the sound of what they're speaking on. I just did a huge spit. That was awful. Of what they're speaking on in the show, and then you should just look at the animation, and then you should look at it. So you should look at it 3 times. One for the audio, 2 for the animation, and then 3 for overall to really get the gist of it. So that's mindfulness awareness. Once again, I'm going to say it one more time. Mindfulness awareness is the basic human ability to be fully present, aware of where we are and what we're doing, and not overly reactive or overwhelmed by what's happening around us. Present awareness is focusing on the here and now, which is what they speak on in Midnight Gospel, on the very first episode. That's not true. Well, yeah, that's true, but they speak specifically on mindfulness awareness on the third show, where they would go underwater with the the fish tank head person. I know that sounds crazy, but I'm gonna show y'all. So, by what's happening around us, present awareness is focusing on the here and now instead of replaying the past or worrying about the future. So, pretty much being in the present and going in even deeper of being in the moment. That's the here and now, which is what I'm doing right now. Here and now instead of replaying the past or worrying about the future. And that's by doing shadow work so you don't ever have to worry about the past again or worry about your future. So the next one is non-judgmental observation awareness, which is noticing thoughts, physical feelings, and emotions without labeling them as good or bad. Acknowledging a wandering mind and gently bringing attention back to your anchor. The benefits of doing all this mindfulness awareness is it lowers the stress. It lowers stress. It calms the nervous system and reduces stress hormones like cortisol. And cortisol is cortisol, cortisol. Excuse me. It improves focus, trains the brain to regain attention when distracted. And that's it. So it improves focus and trains the brain to regain attention when distracted by having this awareness, so you don't ever just be like on automatic, and you don't, because some people, they spend money a lot and they don't even realize it because they're so on automatic and they're subconscious. But if they have that mindfulness, you'll be aware of where your money goes, every single aspect of it. So it lowers stress, it calms the nervous system and reduces stress hormones like cortisol. It improves focus, trains the brain to regain attention when distracted, manages emotions, and creates space between a trigger and your reaction, making difficult feelings easier to handle. Like I said, I don't like how I wrote that, but hopefully y'all get what I'm saying. Like I was supposed to put like commas and apostrophes and all that stuff. Manages emotions, creates space between a trigger and your reaction. And I did put a comma on some of them, but it still looks weird. And your reaction, making difficult feelings easier to handle, period. Better sleep, relaxes the body and mind to help you fall and stay asleep, period. Mindful breathing, which is taking slow breaths, feeling the air move in and out of your nose and chest by inhaling all the way up and then exhale down. And you should be feeling that in your chest. And the best way to do that is by doing meditation, yoga nidras. My phone's already on 15%. That's crazy. Like I said, see why I gotta be so fast doing these videos? Now imagine if I was going in 100%. All I'm doing is just speaking on the basics of it. So like I said, it's my duty as the Canardi Condy to bring all this stuff to light, and then you do the research. Because like I said, I'm black pill, so doing this stuff is gonna change your life forever. And I want to be a part of that, but I also don't want to be if you don't do it correctly, you're gonna destroy yourself doing this. So mindful breathing, take slow breaths, feeling the air move in and out of your nose and chest. Next is the body scan, which is what I spoke on the Yoga Nidra the qigong and meditation and your full body meditative stretch. So that's body scan. Mentally check in with each part of your body from your head to your toes, releasing any tension you notice. The next one is mindful walking, which is what I spoke on earlier. Pay attention to the feeling of your feet touching the ground and the sounds around you. And lastly is everyday task, which is focusing entirely on your routine activities like eating a meal, washing dishes, being aware of the taste, smells, and textures of the food and everything. Even while washing the dishes, even smelling that that shitty gunk smell and all that. Just having that awareness, like having those smells of all that. Okay, so we're gonna go from there. That was Shadow Work by Carl Jung, Carljung. Shadow Work is SHADOW, work, WORK. So that's Shadow Work. I forgot just like that. I thought my mind is so. All right, yo. So let me go ahead and knock this out real quick. My phone is on 12%. So this is the last part of the shadow work. So this is the benefits of shadow work. It helps find your purpose in life. Like this is sitting 8 hours in silence in the dark. So benefits of shadow work. It helps you find your purpose in life, more courage to face the unknown, more confidence to be your true self, deeper love, acceptance, and understanding of yourself, improved relationships with others, increased empathy and compassion, better mental and physical health, a clearer perception of the world, increased creativity, awareness of toxic patterns you are repeating so you can change them, help you find the root cause of your problems and traumas, and it heals inner child wounds. So that's the benefits of that shadow work. This is the part 2 to that. And I spoke on heals inner child wounds. So we have these 1, 2, 3, 4. We have these 4 types of wounds that we have that affected us from our childhood all the way up to our adulthood. So doing this 8-hour shadow work and scheduling a full day, week, month, and year to handle all these situations and problems, it will elevate you. It will elevate you to the highest forms of being a human being, like on a social level, spiritual level, mental level, and physical level. And then you'll have the honor to ascend to another consciousness and to transcend past being a human and all that. So I'm going to speak on the wounds and traumas now. So this is guilt wounds, specifically guilt wounds. That's GUILT wounds, WOUNDS, guilt wounds. This makes you feel sorry or bad or always apologetic. You know how people always say, "Oh, I'm sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry." And you should feel like that way. You should have that type of empathy. But that's the reason why you feel that way, though, because you have something called a guilt wound and guilt trauma. So that feels sorry or bad, always apologizing, doesn't like to ask for things, uses guilt to manipulate, is afraid to set boundaries, and it normally attracts people who make them feel guilty. So you not healing that guilt wound, it attracts people that have those guilt wounds, or people that prey on people that have said wounds. So that's guilt wounds. And how to get over it, you sit in a dark room for 8 hours and you figure out why you have that. So, and it's more than likely from your parents and the people around you, your friends, and even family members, other family members, try to make you feel guilty for doing certain things. So that's guilt wounds. Feel sorry or bad, always apologizing, doesn't like to ask for things, uses guilt to manipulate, is afraid to set boundaries, and normally attracts people who make them feel guilty. So next one is abandonment wounds. This makes you feels left out, fears being left out or cut off. Like you're scared of people, like you're scared of people leaving you in a relationship. So instead of that you break up people with people before they break up with you. So that's fear being, you feel left out, and you also fear being left or cut off in relationships. That's the abandonment wound. So once again, that's feels left out, even though you're not really being left out. You fear being left or cut off. You hates being alone, codependent, threatens to leave, and normally attracts emotionally unavailable people. That's the abandonment wound. Next is the trust wound. Is afraid to be hurt, doesn't trust themselves, find ways to not trust people, feels insecure and needs lots of external validation, doesn't feel safe and normally attracts people who don't feel safe. So that's the trust wound. That is afraid to be hurt, doesn't trust themselves, find ways to not trust people, feels insecure and needs lots of external validation, doesn't feel safe, and normally attracts people who don't feel safe. And then lastly is the neglect wound, which is you struggle to let things go, has low self-worth, gets angry easily, struggles to say no, repress emotions, fears being vulnerable, and normally attracts people who don't appreciate them or make them feel seen. So we're gonna go from there. I'm already 9%, just like that. So that was the last part of the shadow work and shadow self. Like I said, I spoke on the benefits of that, and I was getting really technical, and I was starting to flow, and I didn't notice that I had one more page to go. So I'm gonna go one more time. It's 6 minutes in. Like I said, I don't think I could do 2-minute videos, because I tried to do a 2 hour. I mean, not 2 minute. I tried to do a 2 hour video, and it said the storage wasn't working and the editing and all that type of bullshit. So I gotta really go hard, and you know. So I'm gonna just stop it right there. Y'all seen what I said. Now I'm gonna say it one more time. So the benefits of shadow work. So sitting in a room for 8 hours a day, it helps you find your purpose in life, more courage to face the unknown, because you're pretty much looking at the edge of the universe, if you will, edge of reality, and you're facing your true self. So it helps find your purpose in life, more courage to face the unknown, more confidence to be your true self, deeper love, acceptance, and understanding of yourself, because you really get to sit with yourself and you get to really be with yourself at the highest forms. And a lot of people are forced to do this work because they don't have anything else to do but sit in the room. So you form deeper love, acceptance, and understanding of yourself, improved relationships with others, increased empathy and compassion, better mental and physical health, a clearer perception of the world, increased creativity, awareness of toxic patterns you are repeating so you can change them, helps you find the root cause of your problems and traumas, heals inner child wounds, and these are the wounds that you should be working on in the 8 hours and really the full year. Because like I said, it's gonna take you a long time to figure out this stuff. Like I said, I did this stuff for a whole year, and technically I'm still doing it. You know what I'm saying? Even though it's nothing, I got everything out of my system, but you know, we still get traumatized. That's still a thing. Because people don't know they're traumatizing people. They just live in automatic, and they don't have that awareness and mindfulness to realize that they're hurting people. And then for some reason in our culture, we have this culture where it's okay to be mean, and be playfully mean. And I don't go for none of that. So it is what it is. So we're gonna go with the wounds and everything. So that's guilt wounds, GUILT wounds, WOUNDS, guilt wounds. Feels sorry or bad or always apologizing. Doesn't like to ask for things. Uses guilt to manipulate. Is afraid to set boundaries. Normally attracts people who make them feel guilty. The next one is abandonment wounds. Abandonment is ABANDONMENT. Abandonment wound. Feels left out. Fears being left, like in a relationship, or fears being cut off. Hates being alone. Codependent. Threatens to leave and normally attracts emotionally unavailable people. The next one is trust wounds, TRUST, trust wound. Is afraid to be hurt, doesn't trust themselves, find ways to not trust people, feels insecure and needs lots of external validation, doesn't feel safe and normally attracts people who don't feel safe. And lastly is the neglect wound, NEGLECT, neglect wound. So that struggles to let things go, has low self-worth, gets angry easily, struggles to say no, repress emotions, fears being vulnerable, and normally attracts people who don't appreciate them or make them feel seen. All right. And that's the benefits of shadow work. So I spoke on shadow work 100%. I spoke on the homie Carl Jung. Spoke on mindfulness and the benefits, and we go from there. The next video is I'm gonna speak on every single emotion and why we should transcend past that. So this is gonna be all the emotions. I wrote every single on this one front piece of paper. I spoke on every single human emotion that we have. And we're going to transcend past all that so we don't be low-level humans and allow other humans to trigger those emotions. So we go from there. My phone is on 6%. Happy Tuesday. Let's get these 4,000 to 8,000. Let's get these 4,000 to 8,000 valid watch hours in. Like I said, unfortunately, I can't play music anymore because y'all copyright me. And I'm not going to make my own music because at the very least, I've seen Little Peep, Can, Sauce Walker, Blade, Playboy Cardi, Summers. All these people, they're not getting recognition for their music. And I know for a fact that they'll make better music than me. So if they're not making it, I know, and I don't want to speak that into existence, but it's going to be hard to make it. So, all right, next video coming up right after this, right off the press. We getting it, man.